Hello and welcome back to the Unending TBR podcast. I'm your host, Nicole. Today I have a very special guest speaker and I look forward to letting you finally hear this episode. Okay, so this week I have with me again the fabulous Jenna Van Mourik. Thank you for joining me. And we are here today talking about books that take place during the Passion Week. And it was funny when I started the idea of this podcast, it's like, oh, there's going to be lots. And I mean, there's so many Christmas themed books. I mean, that's a whole genre in itself.
Yeah.
But comparatively, there aren't many set that take place during that time, or even contemporary that are focused during like the Easter or resurrection type thing. Like, why do you think that is?
I mean, from a biblical fiction perspective, being that I've spent the past 3 years trying to figure this out, it's really hard to write about the Passion Week or even in general just about Jesus' ministry. Because for one thing, the Gospels don't agree about everything. And it's one of those things where you're like going to your primary source and you're like, okay, tell me how this happened. And they're like, we don't actually agree. And I keep a running tab in my head of all the questions I have to ask Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John about why they were so frustrating in the way they wrote things down, making it so difficult for me thousands of years later. But you have the synoptic gospels and you have John, and the things just don't agree. And you have to be extremely careful. I mean, already, I think with biblical fiction, you have to be really, really careful because people are going to have thoughts if you mess it up. We've talked about this before, I think.
Yeah.
But then you just take it to the ministry of Jesus, and suddenly that's a whole other level of don't mess up. It just adds even more on top of that, more pressure on top of that. So I can see why logically. Yeah. And I also think to jump into Ben-Hur, it's only been 2 minutes, and I'm already into Ben-Hur, but to jump into Ben-Hur, if you look at the 1959 movie, which I just recently rewatched, they don't show the face of the actor portraying Jesus.
I heard about that. There's a real reason behind that with those old movies.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I'm like, that's kind of what I would want to do in books, but that's hard to do. You can't just fade to black or turn up the music while you're writing. That doesn't make any sense. But to a certain extent, you want to be really careful about how you portray stuff. And I think that has to do a lot. And I'm looking at the books that I have in front of me right now, and the majority of them are primarily with fictional characters as the main characters, which is just a safety step almost to kind of yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, since I know we're going to be talking about books, but also to talk about movies, I don't know if you've seen the mini series. It was Matthew. And so it is a word for word dramatization type thing of the book of Matthew. So it's step-by-step. Parts of it are Matthew narrating it as he's writing down the gospel. So that's kind of the setup of it. But I mean, that to me was such an amazing thing, because to me, I really liked the actor who played Jesus, and to me it made him so personal, you could really relate to it. And it was in contrasting with the older style where it was showing such reverence that they wouldn't even show the character Jesus's face. I mean, it does have to be done so right, but I feel like there is such an opportunity to make him come alive, not that he isn't, but to introduce him in fiction. I'm probably going to say this all wrong.
I always feel so weird when I say that about people are like, why do you read biblical fiction? I'm like, oh, I just love how it makes the Bible come to life. And I'm like, but wait, that sounded wrong. The Bible's the living word of God, but in a different way.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like it's again that power of the story that you can do it. I feel like it sheds on such great light to make it pop, that it's these are and these were real people, and for some reason fiction can do that.
Yeah.
I feel, and who knows why.